Yep, it's a little bit early. I had a rare opportunity to get the CIRF report out early today on a Wednesday, the 23rd. This CIRF report is for the 24th of June to the 30th of June. Last week in June, we have a full moon. We have a crap load of energies to go through. We're going to drill down astrology day by day. We're going to go through the Dreambot and look at what people are dreaming, because that's important according to Carl Jung, the collective unconscious. So here's the summary slide. And this one, okay, so there's a lot of overlap from last week. And that makes sense to me because summer solstice is sort of like a stamp on the whole summer, in my opinion. And now we have a full moon coming in, which should be dominating the energies. But as you remember, we have the Uranus T-square that we left off with last week. That was the leftover, the residual of the Grand Cross at the time of the summer solstice. And that energy extends, as I'll show you, all the way through, well through July 4th. So conflicted, pressured, high pressure, and change. And I was thinking more in depth on this Uranus thing. Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus is more of the material world, Earth even, very Earth sign oriented. So we can be looking at this drastically changing weather. I mean, we were seeing some huge hail, not that we were in Iowa, but we're seeing some videos of Iowa, huge hailstorms. We know we have drought in other areas, but fast changing to where it's like there's just the temperatures here in our area, super hot one day and then almost down near freezing another day. So crazy stuff. And I think that's all in line with the Uranus T-square. And I didn't really even consider that stuff until this last week. So high congruency score this week, we have the I-Ching says grace and beauty. I think if you have a overall view, which you'll get an overall view of the astrology, you'll start thinking that doesn't look graceful and beautiful, but there is a lot of that grace and beauty. And that's why the green circle is representative of the I-Ching, or I'm sorry, the blue. And it's sort of over in the corner, right? The grace and beauty, because you'll see Venus going into Leo. That's sort of this grace and beauty, and it's a sort of a fun take on it. And you have towards the end of the week, the CIRF week, you have Mars and Venus getting clear into a conjunction, and they're merging in Leo. So it's very fun. And it is, you know, Leo wants to be seen, so is concerned about how they look. They're concerned that people see them. And so it's the grace and beauty is right along with that. Then what's interesting is in the Dreambot, a visitor appears, but the word appears and visitor, so, you know, showing up is there. So that's also in that corner, but a little bit different with exercise and vigor. So there's some energy to move forward. Or better said, the humanity or the collective unconscious is considering itself moving forward and exercising. In the astrology, we're going to get into a lot more depth, but the big picture is you've got three big things here. You've got the full moon, obviously. That's going to be on our first day, on the 24th. And then you've got the Uranus T-square that continues that, what was the Grand Cross. And then you've got Neptune moving into retrograde. And so that makes the further out planets all now retrograde, except for Uranus. So Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Neptune, that's four of them. And we'll talk about what all that means. We have Mars opposed Saturn. We have and Mars and Venus merging into Leo. But I highlighted that because even though there's more, even the full moon has some grace and beauty into it, which we'll talk about. But I think most of this is that Mars and Venus merging which is over in, this other corner near the I-Ching where the Dreambot is. And so bottom line is aesthetics that we talked about last week, and optics. And this is going to be really important, especially when we get into the solution, because not only are these high congruency together for the influence, you're going to see aesthetics and optics all weaved into the solution. Hint, it's the exact same I-Ching from last week. So we have different influence, but the same solution, which indicates that summer solstice stamp is still in play. So let's get started. All right, here's the Dreambot, collective unconscious. Everybody's dreaming about, okay, so this is interesting. Donation is the top word, but look at these surge scores. These are unbelievable. Now I have, based on my years of doing this Dreambot, I think I know what's happening on these top words. Normally some of these websites change their coding and the Dreambot's picking up on the new words. So it's got to take a few weeks to get those words normalized out. But anyway, donation is first. I'm going to be watching this, and if it does turn out that it's a coding thing, then I can easily modify this. But right now, just roll with it. Donation number 1, but with an absurdly high score. And then you have 5 of these words are the same way. So something's going on there. And then the other red flag there is that there's no real support for donation down below in the list. So there's no meme that's being created. But the exercise is number 2. It's also got a huge surge score, and it's got lots of words together, including like bike and steps and I think quick, forward, form. So like exercising and moving sort of words. And then the blue arrows, visiting, suspect, particular, finding, left. That's when you appear, but then you leave. So that's why that was included. And gray. And then the word appears. There's aesthetics sort of again, and visiting or direct corollaries to appears. And it's sort of these otherly, I don't know, alien visitors, or gray as in sort of obscured and appears, uncategorized. So it's this new, unfamiliar. Anyway, it's the blue arrows is a visitor appears inside of our boundary. And then you have a really small inferior ends and least. So it's sort of like, I don't know, negative or lacking, that sort of thing. I didn't include that in there. It's only 3 words. So you have a visitor appears. That's sort of aesthetics. And you have exercise and vigor. Sort of a weird Dreambot today, I would agree. Hopefully it speaks to you. We had some great comments this week, and thanks everybody. Jennifer says, I've been watching your reports for almost 2 years. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for being here. And I had no idea that I've had these followers for that long. I can't believe it's been that long. So thank you. And she says, have a good Father's Day. I did have a good Father's Day. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone else, all the other fathers, patriot boys out there getting their Father's Day hammered down. Nicholas says, don't take a dislike personally. Yeah, I wasn't complaining about dislike, but I would like to just shout out to everybody because we had a record like after that, and over 70 likes. That was incredible. Thanks everybody. And thanks Nick for saying that. And Voyer, welcome, says, glad I stumbled on your integrated and insightful and reasoned assessment of the energies we are moving through. Thank you. Voyer 56, welcome. Now let's get into the astrology. As I mentioned, Neptune going into retrograde in a couple days. Then you've got Venus going into Leo. This one is the Mercury square Neptune. We've been struggling with this. It sort of went under the radar, but it's always been a thing. This energy's always been here, and you can see the strength of the square by the color, by the boldness of the color. You see it went exact on the 5th, and you can see it got lighter. It got further apart from each other. Then Mercury went direct, and now it's going to get stronger again. It's going to go exact again. So we've always had this energy sort of under the table, if you will, foundational thing. It's always been there for quite some time, this whole month. And it's confusing. And even though Mercury's going direct now, that square, that developing square again to Neptune, really shakes things up in terms of what's real, what's imagination. You don't know. There's fantasy that can inject it into logic. Maybe what you're imagining isn't logical, or you don't know what's logical. It's very hard to discern from that. Maybe a lot harder to communicate, especially as we get more into another exact in the square, but a lot there. And thoughts are a lot of things in this existence, right? It really affects how you feel, affects how you behave. A lot of times we get conflicted with what should I do? And we ended up trying to go pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, and you just can't. And in human design, it says you shouldn't be in your head anyway, but it's hard because our minds are hardwired for threat looking and keeping us safe. So that's going to really continue to wreak havoc on us. All right, day by day, Thursday, the 24th. It's a full moon in Capricorn with a T-square on Uranus. So which one do you want to cover first? Well, probably the most important, I would think, is the sun and moon opposite each other, which defines the full moon in Capricorn at 3 degrees 28 minutes. And you can see they are not anti-parallel, and they're not in the same space of sky. So it's just a regular old full moon. Everyone's going to see the big globe, and everything's going to be illuminated, and people are going to go crazy, and some people are going to celebrate. It's a Capricorn full moon, so it's going to highlight, it's going to make you more aware of probably your goals, your ambitions, your ability to feel secure, that sort of thing. And in a full moon, it's this time to not really be starting new things. It's more typically a sign of giving things up. Actually, the full moon makes a great way of illuminating things in your life that probably need to be shed. If sacrificing something is an age-old thing with full moons, and you don't have to, and I'm not prescribing to killing animals and that sort of thing, but sacrificing in terms of whatever zodiac sign is pointing at. So Capricorn, goals, ambitions, and that sort of thing. Maybe it's time to look at your to-do list and see if maybe streamlined, or maybe to take those lowest priorities and sort of shave them off. You can do that very ceremonial, or you can just say, I ain't going to do it. And that would be the same net effect. The moon is great at vacuuming things up, vacuuming toxins, taking. Sun gives, moon pulls and takes. Excuse me. Now, there's something really cool in this full moon. You've got a trine from the sun down to Jupiter. Meanwhile, you have a sextile, so an opportunity from the moon, from the full moon over to Jupiter. So this brings in a real sense of positivity, transpersonal energies, wisdom, philosophy, but also a lot of optimism. So it's it's gleefully. It's going to feel a lot. It's going to feel very smooth if you do this right. to sacrifice some of these goals, and maybe if it's just temporary, some activities that maybe you wanted to do and you've pressured yourself for a long time and you're just not moving ahead with it. Well, at least on this 24-hour period, how about just not do it? And that'll feel freeing for 24 hours. And that's going to be instructed by Jupiter. This is very wise, very ahead of its time. And it is, older and wiser, and it's in retrograde. So it's bringing in the past to instruct you about what you should be doing with this full moon and an opportunity there. Now, I'm thinking that just because there's so many more alignments that you're going to have to really consciously go after these energies to feel them. The full moon is going to be very strong, obviously, but underneath it all, you're probably going to have this Uranus unsettling feeling in the material world. That's Taurus. And change, maybe drastic, quick change. Maybe it's unbelievable insights, and it might be so quick or fast or on a big hose that it feels unsettling. And so it feels more like a trap than anything. But like we talked about last time, if you can hang into that space and going with the changes and going with the insights and let the information coming in without really judging it or labeling it, you really get those aha moments. This is the inventor. Uranus is the inventor. And so this energy, even though it's squared, it's difficult. Like I talked about on Telegram, and I forgot to mention that here. It basically exemplifies all the things or a lot of the things in the world that start with pressure. Like an oyster takes lots of pressure and friction and all that to get to this beautiful pearl, but this is the environment that we're in. So the energy wants to trap you into this Uranus square, and I'm saying, you know what? I want to be there. I think these are going to be breakthrough moments in your life. It's not going to be pleasant. It can't be pleasant. And so you've got to just sort of relax into that. Stop judging everything that comes into your thoughts. Now, right in that same illumination, you have another square that's going to make this really difficult. And that's this confusion. So the way I work this out is the ahas, the big world-changing creative ahas, those are coming in more from the subconscious and the intuition. And so that's going to be located physically, all over, but the center of it's going to be more along the lines of your stomach area, heart, that sort of thing. And it's just this inner knowing that just pops out. Where the Mercury square Neptune is going to exist is just up here. All of that's up here. It's your imagination, reasoning, logic. It's unreliable. It's pressured. It's interconflicted. And so you've got to really feel your way through that Uranus square. Okay. And I think the same thing is true to capture the Jupiter wisdom and let that instruct you for your full moon. Now, there's so much more in here, and you can see the spaghetti lines, but I think I captured the more important ones. Let's move on. Friday the 25th. Still have the T square there. Point that out first. We had this, the other part of the T square that I didn't mention is Mars opposed Saturn. So we've got, hardship. And, we talked about this last week, but just to reiterate, the Saturn foundation of security and maybe hardship and pushing things through and hurdles to cross and all that. And chiseling your sword, sharpening your sword, chiseling your sword doesn't make sense. Mars on this side is in Leo, so a little bit more playful activity, but it's highly energetic. It's on fire, and a little kid. And so a little kid's just very curious. And that's what this yang is right here. And so anyway, you could capture that child in you, that inner child that loves to explore and not see the world with all these preconceived notions, and sort of go with go with the flow. The little kid doesn't care about safety issues unless someone's yelling at them. And I'm not saying just go ahead and just be unsafe and all that, but you're going to get the most bang out of your buck on the Mars and Leo with just basically turning into a child again in terms of curiosity and going with the flow and less judgment about things. And that's this week. Should I pursue this painful creative activity or be more responsible to the collective? And painful is coming from Saturn and the T-square. But Saturn in Aquarius sort of says, we're going to give you some hardship so you can worry about the collective. That's the Aquarian way. But be playful with it. That's the Mars in Leo. And then just tune out your thoughts and go seek your intuition. That's really in a relaxed state. That's called divergent thinking. And you're going to pick up on this Uranus thing. And the hard thing, these squares are going to show up as emotions. And so you've got to allow those to be there as well, still relaxing into it, even though it's hard and it may be angry and irritable and all that. Relax that, even while it's frustrated. And then allow, that's divergent thinking, allow intuition to bubble up from the bosom up into the mind for awareness, instead of trying to come from solution making from the mind. That's where you're going to get this Mercury square Neptune illusions and fantasy and illogical reasoning and such stuff like that. Saturn getting in Saturday. Why did I say Saturn? All right. Getting into the weekend, we have a lot of balancing acts to do. We've got Venus in her last stages in Cancer. You got Mars on this side, then you got Pluto, Moon, and Saturn. And they're all opposing each other. And then you've got this chain of retrograde. You've got Neptune now. It's gone station and retrograde. And you've got all of these right in a row. Isn't that sort of crazy? You got the moon going to be whipping through here. Moon never goes in retrograde. And other than that, these far out planets are all going backwards. Well, so feels like an internal timeline shift, possibly. All the outer planets are more referring to the inner parts of us and inner parts of our psyche. So we're going down deeper into the subconscious, and that's going to drum up past memories and past things. Feels like we're moving backwards and all that, but it's a deeper sense. It's not like out there. It's not outside of you. It's just deep inside. So if you go in to get your Uranus, don't be surprised if past stuff comes up, and it might be in the form of illusions. Neptune. Of these four, Neptune is the newest one, and when that planet shifts its profile, that's when that energy is the strongest. So this square becomes even bigger with Mercury, and your thoughts get even more confused. So everything we talked about. Sunday, the 27th, Venus is now in Leo. They're 9 degrees. She's 9 degrees from Mars. And this is starting the grace and the beauty. Think about what Venus in Leo is. Well, Leo is the area where dating is, and we're getting into sort of superficial relationships, but fun, exciting. It can be very passionate. It's a fire sign. And Venus and Mars coming together eventually in these next coming days is, it's passion. It's male and female coming together. Sex, intimacy is in there, but on fire, and a fun form of it. Exciting, exhilarating, grace and beauty. It's developing. And as soon as Venus goes into Leo, I think most of us will start feeling that grace and beauty. Not that it's all sex and all that, but and relationships, but in general sense, grace and beauty is what you get with Venus and Leo. The attention is higher with Venus going into Leo, because before Venus would be good with just being at home and just protecting the young ones and mothering and that sort of thing. But now she wants to go out and have fun and be seen. And so she is all of a sudden getting her makeup on and getting beautiful. Easy for Venus to adjust towards excessive. Right. I forgot about that. So you have Venus now as it goes into Leo adjusting to, that's the inconjunct, with Jupiter. And Jupiter, positive, but could be overly positive. And this is where you could get into excessive. Venus is brand new into Leo right now. And so adjusting to sort of excessive behavior, overly optimistic, that can sort of let you down if you're overly optimistic. But that's the tendency for this inconjunct here. And then, yes, you have the T-square still with the moon making the hardship or the foundation or the status quo a little bit more emotional in this corner. All right, Monday, 28th. It's starting to clear out. And everything I talked about is there with the addition of the moon. Moon's in a trine to the sun. Tuesday, the 29th. There's no easy energy. There's a slight uptick in square because now you've got moon sandwiched between Jupiter and Neptune. So things get very emotional in Pisces, a lot more Pisces oriented, and that develops that emotional content, creates a lot more squares. It's head versus heart. You've got Mercury squared to the moon. Now that's where you really get difficult, because what's closest to the intuition? Emotions. Emotions in the chart is the moon. Moon is conflicted with thoughts and heart. Head, heart, conflicted. Woo, it's going to be really hard to stay into that intuitive state, divergent thinking, relaxed state, even with the frustration and all the pressure. Whew, it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it if you can do it. All right, Wednesday, the 30th. This is the emotional gateway to powerful dreams. You've got Moon conjunct Neptune, Neptune in retrograde. This could be really emotional illusions. You've got optical and emotional illusions, but could be very spiritual illusions. Spiritual creates emotions in illusions and fantasy. And what's real, what's not real? It's going to be tough. And that could help generate and help create ideas for the Uranus, because the subconscious is up there creating connections and associations. And that's a very positive thing for aha moments. All right, now the big news here. Now, if you got Pluto sextile Neptune, and all these illusions that I mentioned earlier, there's opportunities there. And the opportunity is for increasing your superpower, your inner power. It's Pluto is that deep subconscious content. And I would imagine that could be very related to some of these ahas. But opportunity for the emotions to instruct your inner power and vice versa. These can be very powerful optical illusions, very powerful emotional illusions, but as opportunities. So much more positive orientation. Now, here's a bonus for you. I wanted to, sort of promised that I would show you when these T-square ends. So July 4th, it only gets more robust. July 4th being a really important day. You just happen to have the kingpin Uranus, eccentric, freedom, liberation, insight, the inventor, technology, all that stuff is emotionally charged now. And that's the trap, per se. People are going to be trapped in that. You're going to see some freedom-oriented, anti-establishment content through the roof. With all these squares, you've got Venus and Mars basically together 5 degrees away. So that's very passionate. That brings some more passion. And then the Saturn, hardship and security and all that stuff in Aquarius. That's really going to rip through this Uranus thing. And people aren't going to be thinking logically. Neither are we. So be aware of that. Expect the unexpected. But July 4th, basically, the T-square is not only still there, it's even stronger, even harder. Then to answer the question, when does this thing end? This is the first day without the T-square. That's July 12th. So it goes all the way through July 11th is the Uranus T-square. And then on July 12th, all that's left there is Uranus square Saturn, and Saturn in retrograde. So once it goes direct again, it's going to start sweetening up this square. It's going to last probably for the rest of the year, or really close to that. And Uranus just chiseling away at the status quo, the way things have always been. All right. So that's that little bonus there. Let's get back to this week. We've got the I-Ching reading. The influence. You know what? We have 2 change lines with grace and beauty. Hexagram 22 is mountain over fire. And guess what you get when you put these 2 change lines in? You make the top one a yin, a broken one, and you make the 5th line there, the second one down, is a yang line. So you just reverse the polarities. Anyway, when you put that in there, those change lines, you get the exact same hexagram we got last week. So it's more about the energy or the emphasis this week in terms of influence. The top influence is what you see, or the optics of things, or the grace and beauty. How people see you is more of grace and beauty. So let's read through this a little bit. A splashy sunset bathes the mountains in a soft radiance. The light of a full moon dances on the surface of a rippling fire. It's basically just confirming it's the full moon is the influence, not the T-square. But interestingly, when we get the solution, it'll be the same as what we had for the T-square. Okay. Grace brings artistic expression into the world and enhances the quality of our lives. Grace brings success in small matters. Yes, and I'd like to include that I missed Venus going into Leo is also very creative in form. It's a very artistic place to be. So Venus loves beauty and art, and then Leo is very creative, and this is very youthful. All right, so great time to do artwork. Let's talk about the lines. The sincerity of feeling is the most valuable gift between friends. In the end, it is sincerity that brings success, not material riches. Line 6 says, the fully developed person exudes grace from his or her inner being and has little need for superficial adornments. When form is perfectly aligned with content, simple measures are sufficient to assure success. So it's there's a tendency for the Venus in Leo to get a little bit not superficial, but vain. And this one's suggesting watch out for that. And then here's the solution, everybody. It's identical to last week. We have after completion. What we talked about is, first of all, the yang sandwich over the yin sandwich over the yang sandwich, because you've got yin, yang, yin, and then yang, yin, yang. So it's the calm, either the calm in the storm, the calm before the storm, whatever, but it's that feeling that we're oriented towards this solution. So here are the behaviors. This is a time for fine tuning. It's a time for refinements and embellishments of what has been accomplished. It's not a lot of time to be doing a lot of stuff. I talked a little bit about the Mars in Leo and how you can go exploring and that sort of thing, and that's warranted. But it's not like these heavy starting big old projects and putting a lot on your shoulders. Don't let your current good fortune give rise to adopting an attitude that is too careless or relaxed. Whatever is successful or already established needs to be carefully maintained without trying to expand it right now. What is incomplete, on the other hand, should be brought to fruition without delay. Talked about that last time. No change there. We put it into our calculator and we get the same. This is the same one. And Uranus is there. And we've got hexagram 2. All this is the same. The solution was the same. The gate of higher knowing. Oh, isn't that magical? The Uranus there, the king of insights and invention, this is the most receptive lines of all the hexagrams. The ancients would refer to it as the higher self. That's in human design. That's what we're trying to achieve when we sit there and sit in that Uranus environment in the T-square. Even though it's unpleasant, we're trying to relax, to get divergent thinking. And you do that by not judging all the thoughts that come in, not trying to make all that sense out of everything. And hopefully you can tap into the higher self. By the way, it's the receptive. This is hexagram 2, which is the receptive, and that's the yin state. And that's in your divergent thinking, in that Uranus state of being, even when everything else is conflicted, to enter that pure yin state is really the only way that you can pick up this insight and the magic and the aha. And so you have to really, really concentrate on relaxing. But here is where the rubber hits the road. Now, we talked this last time, but there's more to it here. The emphasis is on aesthetics and higher knowing. We mentioned optics last time. Yeah. So what do you get when you have higher knowing and through how things look, or optics? You get the Great Awakening. And I've been seeing it said, I think Ravi said that it's happening. She talked about it over on Telegram. Very well said. Said it's like a little spigot of insight coming out little by little. And I mentioned I'm getting impatient for justice and freedom and everything to be coming to the fore in this new world of ours. And she said, well, it's, little by little, and I'll take it. That's a good point. But I think hopefully we're getting more on the fast track to this. All right, let's talk the solution slide. And I'll give you my sponsorship slide before we get there. Intervention Therapy, intervention.com, for mental health, for human design, astrology readings, hypnotherapy, even past life regression. Go to intervention.com. Whoa, what happened? Hold on. There we go. All right, zooming in. Expect this to happen. I wouldn't even be trusting what you're seeing. And I know a lot of you, the viewers here are the best questioners this world has. And so don't be going just straight to what you're seeing. Go to where the source is and see what the actual raw material says. But I'm getting into the behaviors of it all. It is similar to last week, but slightly different. So let's review I-Ching 63 after completion. It's about relaxing, resting, Don't be too careless. Don't get too relaxed. You still need to move forward, and you can with, Mars in Leo. It's more about maintenance than growth. After all, you've got that Capricorn energy that wants to do, but it's the full moon. The full moon wants to take away. And so you're sort of culling the things that you have to do. All right. And that could help you feel relaxed. Ray Mandala says gate 20, gate of higher knowing, emphasis on intuition through aesthetics. Intuition through aesthetics. Sidereal is Aries, so direct and transparent. And that was all based on this Uranus T-square. T-square on Uranus continues heating up the summer, and full moon adds a lot of unpredictability. People's behavior is what I'm talking about here. People's behavior is well known to be unpredictable around full moon, plus or minus 24 hours. Let go of expectations, drive, ambition. That's the Capricorn full moon. Rest and relax, even if you notice a possible uptick in pressure and conflict amid more change, Uranus. It's about maintenance of current projects, tasks, while you look for new perspectives. That's the Uranus gift, is seeing new perspectives in your material world. Use your best Aries confidence and passion to keep growing, evolving, recognizing new perspectives when you see them. If you want to try and remain centered on the Uranus T-square, also use your best Aries transparency and intensity, for Uranus will offer big insight, freedom, revolution, inspiration, change, anti-establishment, individuality, surprise, etc. But be forewarned, the alignment will be unsettling, as we talked about before. Oh, man, another big one. This one's 41 minutes. Where I think we're heading towards the climax of it all. That July 4th energies just looks amazing. I'm very anticipative, very anxious to see what, not scared. I'm looking forward to these energies over the summer. I want breakthroughs. I want to get the new world in a very free and inspiring and individually based way moving forward. All right. That's all I got. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week.